Barbara Routh, last name R-O-U-T-H. A lot of people always say Barbara Routh what? It's O-U-T-H. Unlike many people, I wasn't an illustrator. I didn't have a chance to go to college, so my art career started with paint by numbers back in the 70s. I was decorating my daughter's room with paintings, and I was doing a paint by number, but what was different with this paint by number was that they taught you how to blend the colors together so it didn't end right at the line. So I kind of, from that, went to venturing out a little bit more on my own. I did belong to Wet Paints back in, I think it was 75, 76, when we used to meet over at the St. Anne's Church on Middle Road. I remember Hazel Brown and Henry Betchman, Carrie Kazmarek, Joan Strauss, Bob White, and I think there was a George White who also did watercolors. So it was just a very small group, and they were very helpful in getting me started and being encouraging. From there, I did a few things myself, and just kind of went out on my own. There was a boat at the West Sayville dock, and I had no idea how to do watercolor, and so I just worked from a picture that I had after I'd been down. I live in West Sayville, so the West Sayville dock is a nice place to go. And just kind of experimented with watercolor. And I'm just going back to that now, taking a watercolor class down at Aalto. I was trying to decide what to bring tonight, and I know I brought a lot of pastels that I've been doing, but I wanted to bring some things that maybe would kind of give you an overview of where I've been. I was home with my children, and I was painting on driftwood and doing pen and inks and fooling around a little bit. In '86, my husband was sick and we didn't know what he had, and I said to him after he got out of the hospital that I'd like to go to college so that I could take care of the kids if I didn't have him. I still have him. He has chronic fatigue syndrome, Epstein-Barr virus, so it wasn't as life-threatening as we thought. So I went to college at 36. My youngest was in kindergarten, and I had the opportunity, after I took a lot of the basic courses, to take some electives. And one of the first ones that I did was when I was at St. Joe's. I took a calligraphy class. So this is from about '89. And I remember seeing this Charlie Chaplin character in a newsday, a Sunday newsday back in '89. And I liked him, and I also was into clowns then, and I came across a poem by T.S. Eliot, so I incorporated the calligraphy with that, with watercolor. And it's been one of my favorite pieces that I just have hanging in the room that I work in.
Wonderful.
And then when I was going for my master's at Stonebrook, I had an opportunity to take another watercolor class, and one of our assignments was to do a black and white. Now, this was from a black and white picture that I found in the newspaper again, and I was just using that as a reference, and I kind of experimented with how to get all different textures, and having it only in black and white and not having a lot of background education behind me. It was kind of an experiment. So I actually used, I dragged a razor blade all different ways here to try and create the rocks, and then probably dabbled a little bit here. That was one of the assignments we did that I kind of enjoyed.
Beautiful. Came out really nice. Wow. Very nice.
And then after I graduated, I worked for 17 years teaching in Bayport, and trying to think of which order. When I retired, luckily I got reinstated to Tier 1 because I was a secretary in the schools back in '67 to '72. So luckily when I started my teaching career, I got reinstated to Tier 1, which added 4.5 years onto my time, and I was able to retire at 55.
Oh, nice.
So now I watch my grandchildren, my 2 grandsons. But
Always a mother.
I tried to take advantage of different courses, and one of the things I did was took a basic drawing class with Evan Hammer at the Sayville High School at Aalto. And he gives a nice overview of a lot of different things, perspective, shading, light, drawing from a grid. It was a nice overview for me to kind of get exposed to what I really could do. And one of the things he showed us was to use a grid to help us draw, to get started. And I think what it did for me, as much as I would have loved to have done it freehand, the grid was helpful for me to kind of break the ice and try some way to get it started. So that was using a grid. One of the other things that he did that was very different was he had us use charcoal and work in reverse with the negative space using an eraser. So we covered the whole thing with charcoal, and then we used an eraser pen, and we kind of worked that way. And again, I didn't think I could do either of these things, but I kind of liked the way that came out. So from Adult Dead, I remember I was here for several times. I guess I've been here maybe 3 or 4 years now, and I wanted to take lessons with someone, and I was unsure whether I was able to do anything. So after speaking with Walter Schick several times, he said, if you come with me, I'll teach you how to draw. So I did. So I've been working with him for 2 years now, maybe even 2.5 years. And it's helped with perspective, lighting, really looking at the still lifes and getting a good idea of how to look at them and how to interpret them and put them into my work. I've brought in a lot of pastels over the last year, so I didn't want to bore anybody with the same things, but this was one that I did. I'm not sure if I brought this one in. But I'm going to redo this because what I've learned now after working with Walter is to know when something might be overworked. And in the beginning, when I was doing a lot of pastels, my friends and family would say, oh, that's so good, you should frame it. And I'd go back to Walter and I'd say, Walter, they love it, they'd say I should frame it. I said, what do I say when I know it's not right yet? He said, just tell them you ain't seen nothing yet. So I'm at a point, I think, where I'm starting to I'm starting to get it out of my head that everything I do has to be perfect the first time, and it's okay to use the paper and put it aside. So that's one of Walter's pigeons. There was a different pigeon in my picture, but we changed it to one of Walter's pigeons. But that I'd like to do over again. This was one I just finished. It's just an odd little dish that we had, and we put some cherries in it. And we put them in savers, and then maybe we'll go back and work on them again, or maybe some will be framed, or maybe some. When I look back at my first ones, I can see why we didn't frame those, because they're not as good as I thought they were when I first did them. When I was teaching, just an aside, when I was teaching, my son happens to be the artistic one in the family who went to New Paltz for art and has since given up his art career because it's difficult to make money, so he's going to the Stony Brook one-year nursing program. But when he was doing art in school, nobody ever seemed to encourage him. He had a natural talent in 3rd grade, and my sister had triplets, and he took a photograph of the triplets, and he actually did a pencil drawing freehand of the triplets, and it was really unbelievable. But nobody ever seemed to notice it, even in high school, because he was a little rebellious and didn't want to do exactly what the art teacher told him. He wanted to venture out. He kind of got stifled a little bit. So when I taught in 4th grade, I always encouraged the kids to draw. And I would tell them no matter what they could draw, even if we used the opaque projector, if we used tracing paper to flip a drawing or trace a drawing, I said, you can do it, you can do it. And it recently came back to me that one of the kids, I used to let them stay after school for our little art club. And it recently came back to me that one of the girls I had is going to Stony Brook to be a medical illustrator because she remembers when we did the health unit that we drew the outline of their bodies, and then and any piece actually that we studied, we drew. And she said she remembers how much she enjoyed drawing, and that's what was going to take her into Stony Brook to do illustration. So it was important for me to kind of encourage them to do it. This was another pastel that I did. It was a picture from a magazine, so it's not plein air, but it's something that I used as a reference just to get used to being a little freer with the pastels. And then I like oils as well. The other person that I did some lessons with was Larry Johnson for about, I guess maybe about a year, and gave me some really good tips on oil painting, and even got me painting outside. We'd go as a group and we'd paint outside. This one was from a photograph. And this was another one from a photograph.
Did you take the photographs?
No, Larry had some of these.
Okay.
And sometimes we would have a photograph that we would bring
wonderful.
into the group and share. And then this was a photograph that our friend Lori took at the Arboretum.
So talented.
He's very helpful to me. And then this was on my own down at West Sayville Dock.
Oh, nice.
As I said, I'm just down the street from West Sayville Dock, and you can get a lot of good pictures there. So that is, and then again, this is West Sayville Dock. So I'm hoping, I watch my one grandson now because the other grandson has gone off to kindergarten, and if we get a sitter for one day, I'll have them 3 days a week. And then if I have Tuesday or Friday free, that gives me another art day. So, any questions?
Did you always want to be an artist?
No. I was always crafty. I was always artsy crafty. I do remember art projects that I did in school that I really liked, but I didn't take any art classes in high school. And up until college, I took a watercolor class on the calligraphy, and then everything else was kind of just by experimenting on my own, and then Seattle did, and then coming here and seeing what people did, and then getting encouragement to go on. So, and I just entered my first juried show. I should find out Monday if they accept any of the 3 paintings that I put in. We'll see.
What kind of paintings?
Pastels.
Is that your
I love
favorite
pastels.
now?
It's funny, I hesitated to take pastels because as a teacher, I hated the chalk on my hands. I could not stand the feeling of the chalk. And I know it's a different chalk, but it's chalk. I hated it on my hands, so I wasn't sure I was even going to like it, but I don't mind it at all. I love pastels. For a different reason. A lot of the still lifes, like I said, have really helped me to focus on my drawing first. And then mixing the colors while it's on. But I also love my oils too. So, and I'm taking watercolor in Sayville Aalto on Thursday nights in another week or so. That I find the hardest for me. So, but I'm going to take it again and not give up yet.
Why? Why do you find it hard?
I can play with the oils, I can mix with the pastels, and watercolors, I have a lot to learn yet. It probably is the best, but it's probably not, to me, not as controllable, and I have to learn to let that go. That's why I'm taking it again. I don't want to quit on it yet.
You ever try acrylic, Barbara?
Yes, it dries too fast for me.
Barbara, would you explain the graph? You talked about the graph.
Oh, the grid?
Yeah, the grid.
Um,
How did you do that?
What we did was we took a photograph and we grid 1-inch boxes on the
On the
paper.
photograph itself?
Then we have a clear plastic with a grid on it and say we label it A, B, C, D, E, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So A1, you draw what's in that box. Then you go to A,
Oh, wow,
B,
and that's how you do
B1.
that? That's a good idea.
And like I said, I would love to be able to say I did a freehand, but it just broke the ice for me because I did do some freehand after that. So,
It's one of a couple of different methods. The grid, you can also do with a box. Make the diagonals, cross horizontals, verticals, and cut the pies up in different shapes like that, and then copying actually what's in that pie, same as the box.
right, right. And then sometimes what he would have us do too is take a piece of paper and cut the 1-inch square out.
Yeah.
And then you focus on only what's in that 1-inch square, because it gets you to not look at the whole picture and try to place everything where it's supposed to go. So for me, it was a good start to
You could
be
use
free
any
with the
size,
pencil.
any size square, right? Any size square.
Yeah, depending on how big, like this picture was probably,
That's pencil, right, Bob?
yes. And it also helped me to learn to shade with the pencil on different levels. So that's another reason why it was helpful.
Yeah, wonderful.
The grid is used a lot to enlarge, so
Yeah.
that, you know, you have a small picture you're working with, and you want to make it into a 20 by 40, and you're working with, you know, a 6 by 5, whatever. The grid helps you put it in the right placement to enlarge. So
That's how they do a mural too.
Right.
isn't it?
Yeah, I do that with
Do you
murals.
know?
I lay out the
you
wall.
don't have a projector or you can't
Yeah.
enlarge it that way. The grid is how they use to enlarge.
So I thank everybody here for their encouragement, because I learned a lot just sitting here watching everybody and seeing everybody's work and going to galleries and seeing people's work in the windows. And working with Larry and seeing all the things that he's done, and Walter's great instruction. And I would take more lessons, but I'm so busy during the day and I don't always like to go out at night, so I kind of limit it to one for this night.
He's you in grid.
I'll get you back.